Hi there, it's Mr. Janata here, Head of PE at USH, and welcome to your GCSE Options Remote Assembly. As you can see in the contents, we're going to go through the course outline briefly at GCSE PE and then start to look at the topics that you will be studying at Year 9 before we look at the routes that you can go on from GCSE PE and the skills that are needed for this course, and then a little bit of feedback from the students themselves, and then we'll look at the frequently asked questions at the end. So first and foremost, let's go through the course outline. And the first thing to point out when we think about GCSE PE and is it right for you, is that it's broken down into two parts. So we have the practical element, which makes up 30% of the course, and then the remaining 70% is through theory. Okay, so 60% will be through examination papers where you sit 2 exams at the end of year 11, and 10% of that will be through a written piece of coursework that we will start in year 10 and move on to when we get into year 11. So what does that mean for you at GCSE, for GCSE PE? Well, in year 9, if you take GCSE PE, you'll have 2 theory lessons and 3 practical lessons over the course of your fortnight of your timetable. At year 10 and 11, it's slightly different, where you have 3 theory lessons and you'll have 2 practical lessons. So let's look at the practical element of the subject. The first thing to point out when we think of practical PE at GCSE is that you will have to pick 3 sports at the end of the course that will make up your 30% of your practical mark. So one of those sports will have to be a team sport, one of them will have to be an individual sport, and then the other one can be either an individual or a team sport. So it's your choice in that sense. Each of the sports are worth 10% of your mark. So 3 obviously times 10 is 30% of your practical mark. Each of those sports are marked out of 25 marks. So what are we looking for within those 25 marks? Well, they're assessed in 2 ways. 10 marks are going to be through the skill element of your practical performance. So looking at skills in isolation, so individual skills. 15 marks is through what we call a game context. So that's through things like matches and being able to problem solve and things like that. Now you can actually see some of the pictures there of some of the sports that we offer at USH. You can see athletics, football, basketball, netball, table tennis, handball and cricket. And we offer a few more as well as on top of that. So that's just a flavour in terms of what you would expect within practical elements of the GCSE PE course. So if we move on to look at the theory aspect of GCSE PE, you can see that we sit 2 exam papers by the time you come into the end of your course at year 11. The first paper is called paper 1, which is the anatomy and physiology element, and where we also look at physical fitness. So here are some of the topics that we'll study at year 9 especially. We look at things like the overview of health and fitness. We look at some fitness tests, what they entail and how exactly they work. We look at the introduction of the respiratory system, the skeletal system, and also the muscular system. So in this paper, it's a little bit more sciencey, not in too much detail, but a nice brief introduction within that. We also look at the components of fitness. So what makes up a good sporting performance in a variety of different sports. In the second paper, paper 2, we look at the socio-cultural influences and sports psychology. So again, some topics that you'll study at year 9 include nutrition, hydration, and diet. We look at spectator behaviour, so things like hooliganism. We look at the social and cultural influences that have an impact on participation in society. We also look at the impact of technology in sport. We look at player conduct, so keywords such as sportsmanship and gamesmanship. And then we look also at performance enhancing drugs and what impact they have on performance and the sporting athlete's body. So when we think about the route after GCSE PE, the likely options of after you've taken this course is that you can go on to take a BTEC level 2 or level 3. You can go on to take A-level PE also at college, and also at university you might be thinking about a degree in sports science. As well as that, when we think about the next steps beyond university and beyond college for that matter, jobs that relate to PE are vast. There are so many, but here are a few examples for you. So things like physiotherapy, where we might look at sports massaging and rehabilitation in terms of injury. We might look at PE teaching and PE coaching. We might look at personal trainers and working in the leisure industry. Strength and conditioning, so improving a sporting performance in that sense. We might look at sports psychology, so impacts that sport can have on the mind. And then we can also look at things like sports journalism and also sports business, so going into retail, advertising through the sports industry. So if you're thinking about PE GCSE, what skills do you need? Well, here's a list for you that you might just want to just look through. First of all, you need to be quite competent at performing sports. So not just one sport in particular, you need to be pretty good at a variety of sports because that will help with your practical grades. You need to obviously be able to show some teamwork, some cooperation. You need to be resilient, okay? And learning a sport for that matter takes time, and improving takes time. So being resilient is really important. You need to be committed. You need to be confident. You need to be able to show examples of debate. You need to be able to listen carefully, and you need to have that awareness and an interest of different sports, because ultimately in your theory you are going to be applying lots of different sporting examples, not just from one sport, but from a variety of sports. So to help you get a bit of an understanding of the feedback that we might get at GCSE PE, we just asked a few students in our courses that we're currently running as to what they enjoy about PE, and a couple of other questions about GCSE PE. So I'm not going to go through each and every answer there, but you can see what they enjoyed mainly about PE was the practical element and also the theory element, that there was a combination of the two, and they found it fun that they had that variety. We asked them if GCSE PE was an easy option, and all of them replied that it wasn't. It wasn't an easy option because ultimately there was quite a lot, there's lots of things to remember in terms of the theory aspect, but also in terms of the practical element. In order to get a high grade and a high practical performance, you need to show commitment and that desire to perform and improve every time. The last question we asked them was whether they would recommend PE to other students, and everyone said yes. And the reason why is because they've seen that element of fun, that enjoyment, that they like to keep active, and they loved the practical element of it, but also applying some of those theoretical examples into the actual theory paper. I think it's important at this stage, from my point of view as head of PE at USH, to tell you about the new sports hall development. And it's an exciting time for the department, because in the next year or so, we're expecting us to have completed our new sports hall building. And that's really important for us within the USH community, but also exciting within the PE department, because it means we'll be able to broaden our curriculum, including lots of new and different sports. And hopefully, as PE GCSE students, you'll be able to benefit from that in terms of your practical performances, as well as some of the theory that we can apply within the sports hall. And the final slide I'm going to show you is just some frequently asked questions that students and parents sometimes may have in regards to PE, and they're up here right now. And you can see in terms of the specification that we use, we look at AQA PE, so that's the specification that we use. Can I pick what sports I do in the USH PE curriculum? Well, ultimately we work on a 6-week kind of carousel. So within GCSE PE, you'll do all the sports that we offer within PE, and ultimately from there you'll then pick your 3 best grades as part of your practical performances. Do you have to play at club level to be taking part in GCSE PE? It says there that it would be helpful, and ultimately if you're playing at club level, then you'll be playing at a fairly high level, and a lot of GCSE students nationally will be doing that. But the answer is no, you don't have to, as long as you're fairly competent in all the sports that we kind of offer, and a variety of sports, and you're also willing to learn to help you get that best practical grade. So the answer to that next question is no, you can't just pick football as part of your GCSE PE or one sport in particular. You'll be doing a variety. When it comes to looking at the last few questions, GCSE, is it an easy option? The reality is it isn't. But if you do a sport outside of school, let's say, for example, we have students that do boxing and dance that we don't offer on the PE curriculum here at USH, then you can be assessed in that externally. What I would suggest in doing is either speaking to myself or your PE teacher in the first instance, and they can show you the grade criteria for that particular sport. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me or your PE teacher, and we'll do our best to advise you. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope to look forward to seeing you pick GCSE PE if it's the right course for you.